Hello and welcome to the Absolute Beginner Guitar Lesson Series. My name is Oliver and today's lesson is lesson number 30. Before we get into it, I think there's something very important that I need to sort of help you to understand. And what we really need to do is we need to take a look at the relationship between the root note of the scale and the seventh note of the scale. So I have a C major scale up on the screen, and we're looking to see how the seventh note of the scale relates to the root note of the scale. And I want to do sort of an illustration on the guitar, so I hope you'll indulge me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the note C, that's at the 5th fret of the G string. So we're going to call C our root note. Now, in the C major scale, B is the 7th note of the scale. Now, if we look at our B or our C note that we have at the 5th fret on the G string, the B note is right next to it at the 4th fret. So this is the first thing that I need you to understand. If we have the root note at the 5th fret, the note that represents the 7th can be found 1/2 step or 1 fret below that note on the same string. So if the root is at the 5th fret, C, the 7th note of the scale, B, is at the 4th fret. So now we're on B, and B is the 7th note of the scale. However, if we flat this note, we'll get B flat. And B flat is at the 3rd fret on the G string. So I need you to sort of see that as well, that from the root note, which in this case is C at the 5th fret, to get to the flatted 7th note, we really only have to go down a whole step or 2 frets. So if the root is at the 5th fret, the flatted 7th is at the 3rd fret. So now, let's talk about the fingerings for some of these chords. What we're going to do is we're going to take existing chord fingerings and we're going to modify them so that we can get our major 7th, our dominant 7th, and our minor 7th chords. So the first thing we need to follow is that we need at least 4 strings. And whatever fingering we choose, we must have the root note twice in the fingering. First, we're going to look at some open string chords. And the first chord I want to look at is the E major chord. So we have 3 strings, but again, as I said, we're going to need at least 4 strings. So what I want to do is I want to add a note that's on the D string. And I can find the root note E at the 2nd fret of the D string. So I'm going to take my middle finger and I'm going to reach up and I'm going to play that E note at the 2nd fret of the D string. So now I have the E note, which is the root note, at the 2nd fret of the D string. I have the G sharp note at the 1st fret of the G string. And I have the B string and the E string open. I have a 4-string E major chord. Okay, so now let's get into finding these other chords. And there's a reason why I said that we need to have a chord finger that has 2 root notes in it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to change one of those root notes. Now, we have the open E string, but this string is open, and it's as low as we can go on the E string. So we really can't modify that in the way we need to because we'll need to lower the note. So this E is going to stay E as our root note. So now I want to draw your attention to our other E root note, which is at the 2nd fret on the D string. So we have the E major chord. To get the E major 7th chord, what we need to do is we need to have the 7th note of the scale. Now, E major is our scale. The 7th note of the scale is D sharp. And as I stated before, it can be found 1 fret below the root. And now we have our E major 7th chord. Now let's look at the E dominant 7th chord. So now what we need to do is for the dominant 7th, we need to have the flatted 7th note. The flatted 7th note can be found 2 frets lower than the root note on the same string. So we have the root note E at the 2nd fret. So I need to lower that by a whole step or 2 frets. So I'm going to take this and if I lower it from the 2nd fret down to 2 frets, I get the open D note. So I'm just going to lift this finger up and I'm going to play the open D note. And now I have my E7 dominant 7th chord. So that just shows how easy it is to take this chord and to change it. But I want to recap, and I sort of want you to see the line that we're following along the D string. When we have the major chord, we're playing at the 2nd fret, the root note. To get the 7th chord, we're just going to move that note down 1 fret, and now we have, the major 7th chord. And then to get the dominant 7th chord, we're going to go down 1 more fret to 2 frets below the root. And now we have the dominant 7th chord. And this is what we're going to do for our chords. So that's how we do it with our E major chord. Now let's look at the E minor chord. We need to turn this into a 4-note chord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the E note that's at the 2nd fret on the D string. So I'm going to just use my middle finger for now to play that. And now we have a 4-string E minor chord. If we want to play the E minor 7th chord, what we need to do is we need to add the note that's the flatted 7th. So let's turn our attention to the root note that we have at the 2nd fret on the D string. To go from the root note to the flatted 7th, we need to lower the root note by a whole step or 2 frets. So I'm going to take this D or this E that I'm playing at the 2nd fret, I'm going to lower it by 2 frets, and that makes it the open D. So now I have the open D, open G, open B, and open E strings. And that is our E minor 7th chord. So put in your time, put in your work, and I hope to see you there. Peace.